evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this June 8th meeting of the Blackstone Millville Regional School Committee to order. Would you please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job. We must have some teachers in the room. If we could have an introduction of members. We'll start this side today.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone.
Karen Vernon, Millville.
Jackie, Blackstone.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Panaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Alan Himmelberger, Superintendent.
Dave Thompson, Assistant Superintendent.
Lynn Carpus is Manager.
Welcome. We thought we were having some student representatives today, but they're not here. But we will welcome them next year. For those of you out there or listening, our new student representatives will be Anita Lehue and Jessica Morris. So we look forward to working with them next year and learning about all the wonderful things that BMR is doing. Public forum, is there anybody that has an issue that they would like to bring forth? Okay, at this point, we'd like to recognize our retirees who will be retiring after this school year.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reggio. I would like to call up our retiree class of 2017, Barbara Sampson and Karen Luzon, Diane Lebrecht, Ellie Conrad, and Deb Carroll. And I think I have enough seats up here for you. I thought it was interesting that last Friday we said goodbye to the class of 2017, so we are unfortunately here tonight to say goodbye to the retiree class of 2017. Barbara Sampson has been our elementary technology teacher in all three buildings and has done a wonderful job with that position that had been cut before she got here, and we were able to restore. Karen Luzon started her career here a long time ago. And she is the only one, I think, who I can converse with about the Woodstock Music and Arts Festival. So, and Diane Lebrecht, also congratulations, our kindergarten teacher extraordinaire and part of just an outstanding group. Ellie Conrad is our science anchor at the high school and has had such an impact on so many of our students in getting them to love science. Deb Carroll has been here for a long, long time. And she informed me, and a few more years before she got here. And Deb is an English teacher back before it was called ELA. And that's how long it has been. Between the five of you, you have given 108 years of service to the students at Blackstone Millville Regional School District. And I know it's easy to say that nobody retires like teachers because they deserve it. They have put in so much each and every day to really do a job that the reward is intrinsic. It really comes from within. We certainly, you're not here for the fame and fortune. You've done this work because you've wanted to make a difference with our students. And I, having been, both of my parents taught, I have two daughters who teach, it is really amazing to see now that, from my perspective, the amount of work and effort that you all have put in. And I thank you. I also want to say that we always look for substitutes in the fall, so if you get the urge and you're sitting around and it's, it's a slow Monday or Tuesday and you want to come back, we would love to have your wisdom back in the classroom, even on a limited basis. So I make that offer. But again, I want to say thank you very much for all of your work over the years. And I wish you nothing but health and successful retirement. And we hope to be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, part of our retirement process and tradition is that we ask the retirees to select a book to be placed in the library of a school of their choice that reflects something about them or their years here. So I'm wondering if you'll share with us the books that you used, the book you selected, why, and any thoughts you might have. So
In no particular
whoever, in no
order.
order whatsoever. Okay.
I selected The Computer Teacher from the Black Lagoon. Part of a series of books, and it's always been said of me that I embrace the silliness, and this book does just that. There are a lot of puns and innuendos that some of the younger students may not get, but it's full of technology vocabulary, so.
That's great.
Well done.
Thank you. Karen.
I chose Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein because for the last 27, 28 years, hanging outside my doorway is one of the poems in there that I have always loved, and I had a picture done in calligraphy. And it's something like, if you are a hope or a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a magic bean buyer, come sit by my fire. We have magic tales to tell. Come sit by my fire. And I've always loved that, so that's the book I chose.
Thank you.
I chose She Persisted by Chelsea Clinton, and I just had heard good reviews about it, and I thought it fit because I came to teaching a little later in life and had to go to school while my children were actually in elementary school, so I thought it fit.
Thank you.
And I chose, I think appropriately, Women in Science. And it gives a quick overview of many of the great scientists, the women that have come along over the years, and hopefully pique a little curiosity in the students who read it.
And I chose A Part of the Sky by Robert Newton Peck. Over the years, I've taught his first book, which was A Day No Pigs Would Die, which the kids always end up loving. And they always ask, but what happened to him? Because it kind of leaves you hanging at the end. And I always tell them there's a sequel, A Part of the Sky, but you can't get it anywhere. So I'll be happy to be able to tell my last group of kids who are reading A Day No Pigs Would Die right now that when they come in 8th grade, there'll be a sequel available.
Nice. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share, or?
I had the privilege of having a few of you teach me in my younger days before I graduated.
Last week.
And the one thing I was shocked about is that Ms. Conrad did not choose a book of poems about different anatomical parts of your body that she gladly shares with her class on a daily basis.
I have not had the pleasure of interacting with any of you on a regular basis, or you did not have my daughter in any of your classes, but I will say I was at the high school awards night the other night, and I saw the reaction the students had for you, and I know that you will be missed.
Thank you. I will miss it very much as well.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And enjoy.
Enjoy, yeah, enjoy.
And I know I only have till June 21st, so I'll see you.
Okay. Consent agenda A, warrants, field trips, and minutes of the meeting June 1st, 2017. If nobody has any objection, we can consider those in a consent agenda. Anybody? So moved. Okay. Second. Moved by Tara, second by Aaron. All those in favor of consent agenda A?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Okay. As you know, on May 30th, the town of Blackstone passed a motion to increase the supplemental contribution investments to the school and added an additional $280,000 to what had been proposed by their Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen. And so because of that, that changes the amount of money that we had certified initially. And so in order to go back to the town of Millville, we need to recertify our budget at the dollar amount that relates to the additional supplemental investment from Blackstone. That would designate what Millville's dollar amount would be, and then that will go back to Millville, and we will ask Millville to schedule a special town meeting. It will be very important for folks to be in attendance at that meeting and have their voices be heard, and have the process move forward. So in order to continue on with this budgeting process for the FY18 budget, we need to recertify our budget at the corrected amount, or the new amount. So we need to make the motions that are in front of you, and what we generally do is start with Tammy. You can read the first one, and Tara can second it, and then we'll just keep working our way around. Everybody can read a different one. Okay. So if you'd like to begin.
Okay. The motion move to adopt a gross operating budget for the 2017-2018 school year in the amount of $22,458,471.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Tammy, seconded by Tara, to adopt a gross operating budget for the 2017-18 school year in the amount of $22,458,471. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move to apply the following reimbursements to reduce said gross operating budget for the 2017-2018 year. Chapter 70, $10,862,439. Regional transportation, $450,000. School choice charter offset, minus $245,917. Above reimbursements total $11,066,522. The total net operating budget for 2017-2018 is $11,391,949.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Tara, seconded by Aaron, to apply the following reimbursements to reduce said gross operating budget for the 2017-18 school year. Chapter 70, $10,862,439. Regional transportation, $450,000. School choice charter offsets, a negative $247,917. Above reimbursements total $11,066,522. The total net operating budget for 2017-18 is $11,391,941. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, move to assess the amount of $8,365,679 to the town of Blackstone to be applied to the operating budget for the 2017-2018 year, which includes $6,236,685 for a minimum contribution, $1,354,347 in exclusionary costs, and $774,647 in supplemental investments.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Aaron, seconded by Jack and Tara, to assess the amount of $8,365,679 to the town of Blackstone to be applied to the operating budget for the 2017-18 year, which includes $6,236,685 for the minimum contribution, $1,354,347 in exclusionary costs, and $774,647 in supplemental investments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move to assess the amount of $2,822,270 to the town of Millville to be applied to the operating budget for the 2017-2018 year, which includes $2,025,989 for the minimum contribution, $506,531 in exclusionary costs, and $289,750 in supplemental investments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Jack, seconded by Karen, to assess the amount of $2,822,270 to the town of Millville to be applied to the operating budget for the 2017-18 year, which includes $2,025,989 for the minimum contribution, $506,531 in exclusionary costs, and $289,750 in supplemental investments. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Move to apply the following amounts to the gross operating budget for the year 2017-2018. Medicaid, $60,000. Interest, $4,000. E&D, $140,000, totaling to $204,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Karen, seconded by Georgette, to apply the following amounts to the gross operating budget for the year 2017-18. Medicaid, $60,000. Interest, $4,000. E&D, $140,000, for a total of $204,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Move to adopt a capital and interest budget in the amount of $437,573 to be assessed solely to the town of Blackstone, which includes $157,464 for the FWH Middle School, $101,268 for the BMR High School sewer connection, and $178,841 for the roof projects.
So moved. Is there,
Oops, sorry.
No, that's okay. Moved by Georgette, seconded by Tammy, to adopt a capital and interest budget in the amount of $437,573 to be assessed solely to the town of Blackstone, which includes $157,464 for the FWH Middle School, $101,268 for the high school sewer connection, and $178,841 for the roof projects. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do you want to read the next one? Okay. Motion, move to adopt a capital and interest budget in the amount of $205,019 to be assessed solely to the town of Millville, which includes $62,740 for the Frederick Hartnett Middle School, $40,332 for the high school sewer connection, and $101,947 for the roof projects.
Second. Moved by Tammy, seconded by Aaron, to adopt a capital and interest budget in the amount of $205,019 to be assessed solely to the town of Millville, which includes $62,740 for the FWH Middle School, $40,332 for the high school sewer connection, and $101,947 for the roof projects. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, will you explain to everybody what happens next, please?
Okay, so we are governed by Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 16B, and Code of Mass Regulation 603, 41.05, 3C. And this lays out the process for regional school districts' budgets. And so now the school committee has recertified a lower number from its original adopted number. Blackstone has already met their share of the assessment, so now, for the third year out of the last four, it returns to Millville, and they need to call a special town meeting to see if the town is willing to match their additional assessment of $104,750. And so we await that. Ideally, it is held prior to June 30th, because if regional districts do not have an approved budget by July 1st, we have to call the commissioner and the Department of Ed, and then we are mandated to only spend 1/12 each month of our prior year's budget. So we went through that last year, and it is a challenge and severely hampers the operation of the district. So we hope that we do have a budget by July 1st with the upcoming town meeting that Millville will have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
How many days does Millville have once we, I believe it says we have to hand deliver? Or
Yeah, it has to be signed by the district treasurer, which is
And
Karen.
then it's hand-delivered to the towns. They have 30 days from the vote.
From our vote?
Yes, from the vote on June 8th. However, that would put us beyond the June 30th window, so we are hopeful that, as last year, the warrant process takes 14 days, so hopefully we can have that vote the last week of June, which would be the best outcome for the district and for the students. And then they can petition an additional 15 days if necessary. So the regs say 45 days in total from the date. However, it runs in parallel with the regional districts needing to have an approved budget by July 1st.
Were we not aware last week when we had our meeting that we needed to recertify?
No, we were.
We were aware?
We were aware that we would have to recertify, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Well-
we've essentially lost a week by.
Well,
by the
I think we were aware that we had to recertify to a lower number at some point. We weren't aware that Millville couldn't move forward without that research, or wouldn't move forward without that recertification.
But and the earliest probably that we would have been able to have the meeting would have been Tuesday. By the time we had the end of the last week was pretty hectic, but we could have probably held the meeting on Monday or Tuesday.
But we had a meeting last Thursday, and we didn't
Correct.
recertify. So
Correct.
that's, once I heard that, I wondered why it felt like we were a week behind ourselves. It leaves us at July 8th instead of July 1st, I guess.
Yeah. As I mentioned, anybody else have any questions about process? As I mentioned a couple meetings ago, I wanted to look at committees that we had, and I have spoken with most of you, and I've heard back from most of you, but I would like to officially let folks know if you want to interact on any of these committees, then you are welcome to. I've asked Jack if he would be the town liaison to the town of Blackstone and work with me as the Millville liaison to try to bring the groups together so that we're starting dialogue and all talking about the same issues at the same time around the same table. So Jack and I are going to do that, and he graciously agreed, and I appreciate that because we've got some work to do, and we've got to start that soon. The sooner the better. I asked Aaron to coordinate any workshops for the school committee and kind of training issues, just to if there's something that we think that we would help us do our jobs better, that she would help coordinate that and bring that to us either in a meeting or a workshop or something like that. Tara's going to continue her regional agreement duties, and she'll tell you about the next meeting and moving forward with that. And again, I think that's another important piece that we need to see move forward and much greater discussion and dialogue. And Karen, I hope, and Tammy will be working on public relations and just kind of letting everybody know what we do well, highlights and celebrating this district and the great things that we offer and the great results that we get. And Georgette is working also with the town of Blackstone, but more on a facilities basis. She's following up on green grants and kind of how can we, she'll work with Alan on the MSB process and kind of how we get our schools up and going. And I thought that all of us would work on the finance committee and really look at our finances and move it forward. I know people don't like to talk strategic plan because I know that was a long process when the school committee went through it before, but I think it's time that we take a look at that document and is it still accurate, and is that what we want to guide us as we move forward. So we'll all do that together. So that's where we are on committees. I thank you all because I know it's additional duties for everybody, but I think that it's time we start putting ourselves out there and trying to make a difference, because the difference we make makes a difference for the students in our classrooms. So.
Thank you very much.
Wait a second.
Sorry.
No, that's right.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was talking about SC with the strategic. I'll talk about the public forum.
To start off my report, one of the things that we do well is we have a teacher at the high school in Mr. Damian Gaudette who provides our students with tremendous opportunities. And as he is off to Washington, D.C. this summer, I asked if he would come in and share what he does and what we are doing that is special up at BMRHS. So, Mr. Gaudette, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the committee for having me.
Thank
to be here. Although poor timing with today's congressional hearings, it's a little strange up here. But luckily, I'm here with really good news, something exciting for BMR High School. Before I really get into it, I won't speak too long. I have a short little presentation here, but I know Ellie left, but I did have the pleasure to work with Ellie Conrad the last 4 years, and it really was a pleasure. She was right down the hallway from me and always very kind, and always gave her time to me as a new teacher, which was amazing, and I truly appreciated it. So I just wanted to say that. I think we're being filmed, so be on the record.
You are.
I'd also like to start by saying thank you to Superintendent Himmelberger and Principal Dudek and our district media producer, Jesse Dufault, for their continued support of the video program. It's really been fantastic. And without their help, none of this would have been possible. So, to start my little presentation, I'd just like to briefly say where we were 4 years ago when I started. I started at BMR. Mr. Dudek hired me to be a media arts teacher and kind of gave me free rein to teach the classes that I felt should be taught and that I thought would give the most impact to our students. And I really concentrated on video, and our previous video program was housed in an old science room. And so I would have cameras and wet sinks near each other, and it wasn't an ideal scenario. But we still had students creating compelling work and news programs and doing great storytelling, and we started to improve right away. And so with that and meeting Jesse and him giving us resources and help with equipment, we really started to move forward quickly and greatly improve the production quality and just the student investment in their work. So the year after that, we moved into a better facility, a classroom more suited to video production, a little more space, and we proceeded to, I think, create a pretty good school news program. I've had some great students come through. Had your daughter come through. She was fantastic. And you could see that with the new equipment, the new facilities, that students were able to take more pride in their work and were able to create more compelling things because of the technology aspect of video production. And having the new equipment, which is really industry standard now. We have a new iMac lab. We have Final Cut Pro for our editing software, which is industry standard. And we have cameras and lights and really a pretty nice setup. So now, not really going through but I did send this presentation to you, to your group email. Oh, so, or you should have it shortly. I'm not able to turn it up there. But that being said, with our new equipment and the great work that the students were doing, we wanted to take it to the next step and get more community engagement and work more with Jesse and Tim in Millville and really incorporate the public broadcasting component that, we're using money from the cable company. It would be great to give back to the communities a little bit more with some programming and more of a community focus. So I found this PBS program through a teacher that I follow online, Gil Santos, who was a PBS alumni from this program, and he was a teacher down in Texas, so I researched the program. I contacted PBS Student Reporting Labs, and they told me last year that I should practice with the students for a year. I should see if I get any investment in the program, and then they would consider me the next year, which was this year, or this year coming. So at the end of this school year, just 3 or 4 months ago, they invited teachers to apply for a workshop in Washington, D.C. to be trained and mentored and to kind of get your feet wet with the PBS curriculum that they share with the students. So luckily enough, I applied and was accepted for the program, so I'll be going down to Washington like Mr. Himmelberger said, in late July for a training, and to be matched up with a mentor PBS station in our area, where students will be able to have a mentor, take studio tours, and even work with professionals in the field, which is really exciting. So next year, we'll be an official PBS Student Reporting Lab affiliate. We'll be one of 125 schools in the entire country that is part of the program. There's about 2,500 students total, and last year, 200 plus videos from those students were shared on the PBS national broadcast. So it really is a great opportunity for students to share the good work that they do on a school level, a community level, and also possibly a national level. Obviously, we're not going to, we're not going to call that the end game to have your piece shown on the big TV on the national broadcast, but it is a great bonus for a student if that does happen.
They get an A.
They will definitely get an A if that happens. But it's more about the learning of storytelling and telling compelling stories from our communities. So I look forward to sharing those with people at large. Let's see if I had anything else. In the presentation, you will see a link on the Student Reporting Lab screenshot. That will bring you to a short 3.5-minute video that describes the Student Reporting Labs much better than I could describe it. It has students talking about what they got from the program. So if you have an opportunity, you can check your email later, hopefully when it sends, and you can browse through this short presentation and click on the link and really see a student's perspective of what the program entails. Let's see. So like I said, we're one of 125 schools. There's 122 teachers that are in the program. I'll be one of 28 educators who were invited down to Washington this year. So I'm very excited. Briefly, they sent me this press release, and it just states that educators representing schools in 15 different states will be taking part in the professional development opportunity. These teachers will work alongside the Student Reporting Labs team and other public media mentors to learn best practices for implementing the Student Reporting Labs original video journalism and media literacy curriculum. They will also help national program leaders create innovative resources to engage young people in the news, public affairs, and conversations about critical issues facing the nation. So not only is this a great curriculum boost for us and a great community engagement, it really provides a space where we'll be able to interact with other student reporting labs across the country via the online portal and bounce stories off each other and help each other improve in our storytelling and news broadcasting. So it really is a nationwide program that we'll be part of, and we'll have monthly conference calls with PBS mentors in Washington, and so it'll really be an engaging thing, I think, for the students to be invested in. Not to mention, I think they get a T-shirt that says PBS Student Reporting Lab on it. High school kids always like T-shirts. Jack, yes. So in the presentation, there's a few pictures as well, just random shots of students working in the video lab, things like that. And there's a little snippet, I won't read it fully here, but it's just how the student reporting labs work. It's pretty much what I said here, but it goes into a little more depth. And then, let's see. Not only do I think this is a very exciting program for our students and for myself, I'm very excited about it, but I do think it's important. And to have students that are civically engaged and engaged in the things that are affecting them, especially in times like we're in now where there's a lot of turmoil, whether it's politics or whatever. I think if the students have more of a voice, it'll be beneficial to everybody, and especially the students. It'll give them, you know, self-worth, it'll give them ownership, it'll give them all the things that I think they'll need really going forward. So even though video production class isn't academic in the truest sense, where you're learning from the textbook and taking notes per se, students are really doing the work on day one and getting better every day with this program, and I look forward to it. And again, I want to thank Superintendent Himmelberger and Mr. Dudek and Jesse Dufault for their continued support of the video program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to say good luck this summer, and I would love to hear an update after you get back, too.
Absolutely.
How long are you there for?
It's only 3 days there. It's kind of just getting your feet wet and meeting the mentors and hearing from alumni of the program and getting connected on their online portal, which is where most of the training will happen. So it should, I'm hoping it'll be the best PD of my life. So.
Do we have, you'll be paired with a PBS station once you get down there, so you don't have a, but is there only the one in Boston, or is there one in Rhode Island?
There's several stations in New England that we could be paired up with.
Okay.
Could be a Rhode Island station, it could be one in Boston, it could be an affiliate, a subsidiary of that.
Sure.
So they'll pair us up with a video professional. I mean, luckily we have Jesse and Tim local, which they're a fantastic resource and they've helped a lot.
Great.
But this is just another great avenue to explore.
Do you know if any of the other 125 schools are in Massachusetts?
There are a few. On the list of educators going down this year, so new into the program is a teacher from Boston, a woman named Linda Garman from Madison Park Technical Vocational High School. And the other person from Massachusetts is Alan Humbert from West Roxbury Academy.
Okay. So it seems like it's unique to our area.
Absolutely unique to this area. Central Massachusetts, there's no other schools involved in this program.
Great. That's wonderful.
And definitely let us know if there's ever anything that's going to air.
Absolutely.
But if there's anything they're going to air.
You know, on the last page of the presentation, I ask, you know, if you'd like to stay informed with our progress. I gave my email. I have my Twitter handle on there, which is my school Twitter. Then I have the BMR Video Lab channel on YouTube. Then I have the PBS Student Reporting Lab website that you can check out.
There are cows in the parking lot right now.
Sorry.
Just saying. Right
Looking at you, we see cows outside.
Oh, wow. This needs to be on the news.
Get the camera.
Where's the news?
Cows in the
Okay, I have a
parking lot.
trivia question for you. Where did the word news come from?
That window.
I just saw this today.
Yes, it is.
No. Do you know?
There's a farm not
Notable
far.
events, weather, and sports.
Wow.
How many are there?
See?
I'm going to bring that down to DC. Thank you.
Shepherded, or are they just loose at this point?
We are, for those of you wondering why we're all staring, there are.
Would you like
and
me to
there's a
call the
beautiful, that was a
non-emergency
pretty
line?
one.
Oh my gosh, there's like more. They keep going.
They're running past now.
Yeah, someone lost a fence.
There's a whole big farm not far up the street.
Well, the soccer field will be mowed.
I'm sorry. I hope the owners are watching.
I was like,
got
am
it?
I seeing
It's a cow stampede.
8831212.
Only in Blackstone do you see that.
That is hilarious.
Okay. That's all it takes is a couple cows, right?
Big night out.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Everybody's taking pictures.
I do. I
No,
just
we
have
have-
one more question. May I
Okay,
have a? I'm sorry. I'm so distracted.
Is serious?
Look at how many there
We're gonna
are.
watch the cows first.
Is this program or is this going to be a separate class than classes you
No.
already offer, or is it going to be internal to something you're already doing?
Video 2 will become the student reporting lab. So Video 1 will stay a training ground to learn the equipment, the process, the environment, and then Video 2, students will be making student reporting lab reports. Of course, if there's advanced Video 1 students, they'd be more than welcome to take part in this. Any student who completes the PBS curriculum and the assignments that they give will be awarded at the end of the year a PBS Student Reporting Lab certificate, which may not mean much really, but it could look great on a resume for college or...
Yeah. And Video 2 is how, is it a, I forget.
Video
how you
2
guys
is
do
only a
stuff.
semester, so it's only a
okay.
semester class. I have been in talks with Mr. Dudek and looking, maybe we can get a year-long class in the near future. But right now, Video 1 half the year, Video 2 half the year is working pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say thanks to educators that we have right here in BMR, like Damian Gaudet. Anything is possible. And because of Damian's initiative and because of his ability to connect all the dots, our students get tremendous opportunity. And I just think there are teachers and educators like Mr. Gaudet in every grade level in every one of our buildings. and what he has done in his 4 years is truly remarkable. So
thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Enjoy
DC.
Oh, there they go.
They're running home.
Yeah, I want to go get some
Running of the
footage
bulls.
Get some footage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've never seen a cow run, and these
I
guys are
apologize for the interruption.
They are sticking together.
They are sticking together. They went into the woods and now they go back. Oh, no, there's one little.
So,
Okay, anyway.
so I just wanted to say that today we have, at tonight's meeting, Mrs. Braverman, our Special Education Director, Mrs. Sheridan, our Food Service Director of the Year, Mrs. Cobb giving us the financial update, and Mr. Bozan, who is our technology guru, and Dr. Thompson at his final school committee here at BMR. Nobody will miss him more than I. But I wanted to thank the directors for being here tonight to give the committee an update, and welcome to Mrs. Braverman for special ed, leading us off. That was fun.
I saw these guys like, what was that? Hi, Loretta.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Can you top the cows?
I cannot top the cows. I don't know what that says about me, but I cannot top the cows.
And neither can we.
So this evening, I'm here to give you kind of an end-of-the-year report on the special education and some of the great accomplishments that happened throughout this year. In your packet, you will see that special education really is comprised of 4 essential pieces: legal issues, our specialized instruction, the whole issue around special ed eligibility, and also the fiscal responsibility. So my presentation tonight is really going to focus on those 4 pieces. In your packet, you will see that I did a comparison chart of the 2 years that I have been here within the district, FY16 and FY17. This year, FY17, we had a total number of 478 team meetings. Out of students that we tested, this year, 53 of those students that we tested were found eligible to receive special education. 26 students were found not eligible. And 35 students were dismissed from special ed. In our out-of-district programming, we currently have 9 students in a private separate day school, and we have 11 students in our collaborative, for a total of 20 students out of district. I'm very impressed with the numbers, I have to say. When I look at the numbers and I see the number of students that we're testing, and I look at the students that are found eligible, what this says to me is that we've put a lot of time and effort and focus into our RTI process and our Kid Talk process. And when I look at these numbers, something's working, and I attribute it to all of the good work that's being done in the BBST teams, in the RTI, and through the Kid Talks that are happening throughout the district.
Yep.
Yes.
So for your out-of-district number, you have last year and this year. So when we met with you earlier in the school year, September, October, we quickly initiated a new social emotional program for this building. And I believe you told us there were at least 2 students that would be
coming home
much better off with us in this new program that we, kind of quickly put into place in this school year. So I'm just curious why that number is the same.
Sure. One of the things about special education is it's a constant moving target, and throughout the year we had 2 move-ins.
So were you able to?
We were, but we had 2 additional families move into the district that required an out-of-district placement.
So, just to clarify, so without that program, that number would have probably been around 22 for this year.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. A continuum of services that we offer throughout the district. We have our intensive preschool classroom that really has an ABA methodology. We have our social emotional classrooms.
Can you try to explain to us what the word,
ABA?
what the letters mean? Because I know what RTI but I don't know that everybody listening does.
It really is applied behavioral interventions. Students who really require discrete trials for their learning, very, very specialized behavior intervention plans. It's a very unique and very specialized classroom that we have here at our preschool. And we have 5 students who receive that type of direct instruction, specialized instruction. Our social emotional program throughout the district, at the complex, we currently have 2 students that are in the program. At the middle school, we have 3, and at the high school, we have 6. Our pragmatic learning, again, is an ABA model. In pragmatic learning at the complex, we have 4 students. Essentials is basically the essentials of the curriculum, what kids really need to know. And we use language-based techniques with those students. At the complex, we have 9 students, and at the middle school, we have 7. We continue with our life skills programming, and at the high school, we currently have 5 students. And in our post-grad community-based learning, we have another 5 students.
And do you think these numbers will be consistent next year? Like most of the people will either be staying or moving up to the next one?
Yes, there will be some shift.
Mhm.
Again, special ed is always a moving target. We never know who's going to move in over the summer, who's going to move out. The social emotional complex, at the complex level with the 2 students, I've been very pleased with the progress that students have made that have been in that program, because now they are either partially included or have become fully included.
Did you have a question?
So the life skills in the post-grad community, those are 10 total, or are they 5? Are the life skills our post-grad kids as well?
Right. So the post-grad students are the students who go out into the community.
After their senior year, or is that during?
Depending on the needs of the student, and that's really dictated what they call a TPF, a transition planning form. And so what's agreed upon with the family and what the student needs, based on what that student needs to be able, what skills that student needs to be able to have to transition into adulthood.
So it's a total of 10 students?
10 students.
It's not total.
No overlap.
The complex with the lower number for social emotional, what grades are we talking about there? Not the individual, but that's kindergarten?
I'm going to say it's mostly upper elementary.
Okay. And so the intensive ABA preschool kids that we have a pretty large number of, what direction, what do we have for them after preschool?
After preschool, we have the pragmatic learning classroom.
That's where they would be. And we only have supply that at the complex.
Yes.
May I just clarify?
Yeah.
So life skills is typically up to the 12th grade year. They like alternate assessed. That's what we call it in Rhode Island. I don't know terminology. Is that typically the alternate assessed until 12th grade?
Some students may be on the alt. Some students may be on the MCAS demand, just depending on their ability and also depending on what the vision is for that student. Our Special Education Parent Advisory Council this year, I have been so pleased with. There is one particular parent, Ariana Dean, who has done a tremendous job in recruiting and retaining parents to come to meetings and participate. She created a Facebook page for the CPAC, and she currently has about 50 families following that on Facebook. Thursday, August 24th at 6 o'clock, all families with special ed students and also those without are welcome to join the CPAC kickoff, which will happen at the high school. It'll be 6 o'clock Thursday evening, and it'll be a cookout. There'll be some team building activities and discussions about elections and bylaws, and that will then flow into their October meeting. This year, they also had Whole Foods from Bellingham come in and talk to families about food fast, not fast food. After a long day, how to still give kids healthy dinners, especially when you have picky eaters and you have kids with sensory issues. Our BCBA, Elise Gallo, also around the holidays offered families an opportunity to come in and look at how do you plan for family events with a child who requires a lot of structure and routine. And so I've been very pleased with the CPAC this year. Our other prong is legal outcomes. This is one of the slides that I'm most proud of. Last year when I came before you, I reported to the committee that we had at that moment 0 mediations. And wouldn't you know, slightly after I met with you, I had a family request a mediation. A mediation for the district is voluntary, it's optional. Because a parent requests a mediation doesn't mean that the district has to agree to a mediation. But in the spirit of cooperation and coming together in collaboration, the district entered a mediation. We're still working with that family, and we continue to put services and interventions in place to help that student make progress. This year, we've had 0 mediations. And the reason that this is so important is you can imagine when you have a child with special needs, you become quite passionate about what that child needs. Quite passionate. And at times, team meetings, there can be what is perceived as some conflict or disagreement. But what really I have to attribute to the spirit of cooperation with our parents and the skill set of the team chairs is to be able to settle our differences at the local resolution without having to call in the Department of Education to come in and mediate it for us. And I'm very proud of that. For corrective actions, a corrective action is the outcome many times when a parent takes a complaint to the Department of Education and the Department of Education agrees that the district has somehow violated the rights of that parent and will put the district on a corrective action. This year, we've had 0 complaints, and hence we've had 0 corrective actions. So when you think in your own lives, in your own work, what the complaint department is like in your own specialized field, to be able to service 324 plus families with 478 meetings and not have a complaint rise to the level of the Department of Ed is stellar. We have had 0 hearings before the Bureau. And I did break down the out-of-district students who were sent out. Last year we had to send 2 students out. This year it was a total of 4 because we had 2 move-ins and we had 2 students within our district who we ultimately agreed needed to be serviced outside of the district. The fourth piece of our responsibility in the Office of Special Education is our fiduciary responsibility to our community. So I'd like to talk about fiscal responsibility and the sustainability. There is a grant, it's Grant 391, it's for our inclusive preschool. In FY17, $11,951 was our award. Unfortunately, at the state level, they've made the decision over time to fade this grant out. We will continue to be allocated that same amount for FY 18, 19, and 20. After FY 20, there will be an $11,951 reduction in the budget. We will have to plan on how we're going to make up for that loss. Circuit breaker. Circuit breaker is tricky. Circuit breaker, the district has to meet a threshold of what it costs to educate a special education student. And as I said, special education, it's always a moving target. The state sets a threshold amount, and it seems like every year they seem to up that amount that we have to meet for threshold. In 15-16, our reimbursement was $343,000. In FY 16-17, it was $273,000, which was a $70,000 reduction. And for a small district like us, that's significant. That's a hit. So we wanted to look, Wen and I wanted to look a little closely and see what were the factors that went into the decrease in our circuit breaker. 2 students aged out. 4 students moved out. 3 students moved in, but they didn't meet threshold. 4 students no longer required one-to-one aids. So for the particular student and the particular family, that's good news. The good news is that student no longer requires that one-to-one aid, and that's what we want to begin to see, right? Least restrictive, more independence. But it did result in a $70,000 reduction. So when we look at tuitions, we might want to say, well, if all this is happening, why are tuitions still going up? But we have to remember every year, collaboratives in private schools raise their tuition. So they raise the tuition and the state raises the threshold. Yes, Alan?
I just want to reiterate what I just understood you to say. The circuit breaker is based on, the state sets an amount, a threshold you called it. Once we hit that amount, then we're reimbursed for what we spend?
It's what's over threshold.
And how do they decide what the reimbursement is over that threshold?
The state sets a percentage. Last year it was at 73%. Someone from my office is attending a training tomorrow in Bridgewater with DESE representatives. We're hoping that they will be able to tell us at that point if they have determined what their percentage rate for reimbursement will be this year. I was at a training 2 weeks ago in Northborough. DESE representatives at that time, they were not sharing that information.
And do they change the threshold each year as well?
Yes, they do.
So they change the threshold that we have to meet, and they change the reimbursement that's paid out on a percentage after that threshold.
Yes.
So I don't want to get off track from your fiduciary segment here, but my question would be, is going back to even what you're adding in here as factors, affecting the circuit breaker. when we created the additional social emotional piece for here, and we now have it available in all 3 buildings, the goal was to bring kids back in and hopefully offer that as an out of district for other schools, correct? So it would be something a program running that other schools would be sending their kids here for. Are we still working in that direction?
Are you saying offering schools who want to tuition in a student for one of our programs?
Yes. Are we still working in that direction to bring our kids back first?
Absolutely.
And
to offer
and to continue to create those, to be a program. I mean, how far away are we from being able to call it a program that would be bringing us revenue in that sense? Instead of paying that money out in tuition, are we working to get that?
Well, I think it's a cost savings. What we would pay to send students out for tuition is one thing, but what we would pay in transportation is astronomical. So what we save when Wen and I sit down and figure out how many students do we need to make this work, the transportation it always ends up being the tipping point.
So just bringing our kids back is going to be a savings on transportation.
Absolutely.
Where do we stand?
So we bring kids back when they are ready. When they are ready to come back to district and be safe. Their own safety and others.
But that's why we created these programs for them.
Yes. And many of the students who are in out-of-district placements at this time, those that are becoming ready to come back, those families are in discussions.
So in the fall, you could give us a number of 2.
Well, I would have to look at how many of the out-of-district students are actually out for social emotional reasons.
But by bringing them back to a specialized program, you're not changing the continuum of services, except that the building changes in many cases, correct? If you're providing the same service that they're getting in this building, now you are paying your staff to provide that support.
Yes.
You're not, a team can say that you're not really changing
the delivery,
the continuum of services. You're just, in fact, making it a least restrictive environment by bringing them back.
Yeah.
So
you had a number in the fall for us. Are there any that we'd be looking at for?
The social emotional reasons right now, there is nobody on the radar. Remember, all of this is subject to parent approval.
Sure.
Or they have the right to enact a stay put. And so usually your best opportunity to bring a student back is when there's going to be a developmental change anyway. So let's say elementary into the middle, middle into the high school. And that's usually when parents feel would be the best time to disrupt their child's school and bring them back to district. So if you've had a student who has been in an out-of-district, let's just hypothetically say, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, usually a parent may want that student to continue for 4th or for 5th. And we begin to talk about how we can support that family and that student to transition back into the district. We always want to bring kids home for many reasons. I think the most compelling reason is for the social aspect of it. When a student is schooled in their home district and the day is over and they go out into their neighborhood, they have friends, they have relationships, they get invited to birthday parties, they're part of the crowd. When you take a child out of their home district, those relationships become severed or strained. And so we always want to have kids in district. That's my philosophy, that's my belief, that's my value.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's difficult to bring a student back from out-of-district placement because the fallback is stay put. Your best option is to have the program built and running well and put the child in the least restricted. In order to move a child back, you need to have the program running, convince the parent that it's the best thing, and have them come on board, which I think you've had some success doing, but that is a much bigger hill to climb. Just because you put a program in there doesn't mean you can just pluck kids from out of district and put them back into the schools. You need to convince people that that is better for their students, they're going to get a better education. I mean, and I can speak personally to this, there's not a silver bullet out there. These private out-of-district placements are not any better than a good program in your public school. And in a lot of cases, they're not as good. So if you have good programs and you have places for students to go, that you're keeping them in the district with their peers, you're easy to transition them to interact with their typical peers. There's typical peers around where out of district there often is not. It's better for kids.
I just wanted to clarify circuit breaker for everybody because this is a hot button politically at the state level. This was implemented and I believe Dr. Davis helped to write this law back in 06-07, co-writing. And what this allowed was the formula said if you reach 4 times the foundation budget, once you hit that threshold, the state will reimburse you, subject to appropriation, 75% of that amount. So, for instance, this year, 4 times foundation is just over $40,000. So if a student is placed out in a placement that costs $50,000, the district will only receive $7,500. So 75% of the amount over that. But that's if the state funds circuit breaker at the 75%, which is what it was written into law at. Very similar to Chapter 71 with transportation for regional school districts. It was supposed to be funded at 100% of the qualifying costs. And since that law was written onto the books, there's only a handful of years it was appropriated at that level. And this year, we're going to be somewhere in the 60% range, 60 to 65% range. So again, the laws are on the books, but they're all subject to appropriation. And it is a challenge for us to receive all that we think we are getting when it's in most years less. So just want to add that for clarification.
May I ask one question? With respect to the 4 students no longer requiring one-to-one paraprofessionals, does that mean that at that point they leave the district and there's a cost savings there, or what happens to them?
It means that their service delivery has changed.
Okay. So typically a one-to-one aide is working with a particular student. So if a team decides that that student no longer needs that one-to-one aide,
it doesn't necessarily change the placement.
It's interesting. You do things a lot different than Rhode Island.
I know.
I'm finding. We'll have to meet. Because
sure.
this whole placement in Rhode Island is a team decision, not a sole parent decision. So that's why I was asking it.
Yeah, it's a team decision, but the parent has the right to invoke a stay put.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know how familiar you all are with the school-based Medicaid program.
They're still in.
In FY15, we had 100% compliance. We were reimbursed through Medicaid $1,017,275. And if you look at the next slide, for FY16, you'll see $185,263. Medicaid is for students. Parents sign an authorization that gives us permission that when we're providing a service to their student, that we can claim them on Medicaid reporting. And we have something called a random moment in time. We receive an email saying, let's just take me, let's say it's me. Loretta Braverman, on June 8th at 10 in the morning, it will be your random moment in time for reporting to us. What were you doing? Were you giving direct service to a student? Were you doing administrative duties? Were you in a meeting? Were you out sick? There's a menu, and depending on what your task was at that time, it's attached to a dollar amount. When a provider is working with a student, that is the greatest reimbursement amount. So when I look at the FY16 and I see the increase, at the time that that staff who were selected to report out their moment in time, they were providing direct service the majority of the time, which I like to hear because it means people are with kids. People are with kids. I'm not saying the paperwork isn't important. We've got all sorts of compliance issues with paperwork, but it's really nice to see that people during those random moments were spending it with students giving direct services.
How do you expect that that potentially might change in the current federal budget process?
I'm very concerned about that, as I think many people in education are. We also have an additional legal responsibility, and it's called a coordinated program review. And some of you may be familiar that the Federal Individuals with Disability Education Act, the regulations basically say that part of the accountability system for DESE is that they're required to conduct a coordinated program review. So this was our, this year was our self-study. And the coordinated program review for special education is really two parts. The first part is a file review. So we went by a matrix that was given to us by the Department of Ed on the files in which they wanted us to report on. We selected about 30 files that we felt really represented our district well. The Department of Education, we reported that information to the department. Next year, there'll be an on-site visit, and the department will inspect those files. There's a second part to the CPR, and it's really about procedure and practice. Procedure and practice on what we do basically from soup to nuts in special ed. If I had a special ed dictionary in front of me, they're going A to Z. So in my office is a binder of maybe 300 plus documents and procedures this year that were put together to be able to showcase what our district does to be in compliance and meet the needs of students with disabilities. Next year, the visiting team will come in. They will review those, what they call SEs. They will speak with parents. They will speak with faculty. They will speak with administrators. And they will basically audit and inspect that the procedures and processes that are in the book are actually happening out in the classrooms and in the buildings. They'll look at our record keeping. They'll look at how we use our funds. I did a program evaluation that's part of this inspection. They'll look at school facilities to make sure our students with disabilities are not segregated, that the classrooms are not segregated and away from the main population. And they really will come and be part of student services for their site visit. And And we welcome this because we feel as though by really doing this autopsy, it'll help yield some valuable information for the district and for the community regarding what we do and what we do well, and the areas in which we need to improve.
Okay. Any questions, other questions for Loretta?
I have a question.
Yep, Erin does. Yep.
Thank you for this. I did have, I looked at it before our meeting in our packet, but I was wondering if you, so last time we saw you, I keep referring back to that, but we haven't seen you since the fall. Do you have an update on our co-teaching models? And I know there was a very big PD you were excited about back in the fall, but it wasn't able to be scheduled until February, I think. So
April.
Yeah, it was during. Yeah.
So could we get an update on that?
Absolutely.
And
So we were privileged to host professional development in which we opened our doors to our surrounding neighbors and welcomed staff and faculty from those districts to come and hear Dr. Lisa Deeker, who is a professor at the University of Florida and is in charge of the Lockheed Martin doctoral level for professionals who are going into education, special education as their doctorate. She's very, very well known, and she's been in hundreds and hundreds of schools and hundreds of school districts, and we were very fortunate that she came here. She was on sabbatical. She's booking out at this time 3 years from now. So we were really fortunate to bring her here. She did a wonderful presentation and training on co-teaching. But what's behind co-teaching is the idea of inclusive practices. Mark Juber and his students were able to put together a manual that we were able to give all of the faculty and staff on Dr. Lisa Deeker's presentation, so they would have a resource guide. She talked about co-teaching in many ways. One is that traditional model where you envision a special ed teacher and a regular ed teacher married and in the classroom servicing students throughout the day. But then she also talked about other different types of combinations in which that can happen. That was very valuable to me because in a small district like this, and especially a district that's facing the budget issues that we're facing, how do we continue the momentum and the excitement that Dr. Lisa Deeker brought to the district? And have teachers willing to say, yes, I would like to do some co-teaching. We have had teachers step up who have never co-taught before, and after hearing Dr. Lisa Deeker come forward to their principals and say, next year I'd like to try some co-teaching. They may not be able to do the dance all day long, but they may be able to cross curricula. So we may have ELA and history teachers getting together to do co-teaching. So there are different facets of it. In the fall, when I came to see you, I think the question from one of the committee members was to report out on where co-teaching is happening throughout the district. And what I had done was I had sent out like an Excel spreadsheet or a questionnaire to all of the principals who reported back to me. And when I looked at it on paper, it looked like we had co-teaching going on everywhere. But phase 2 of that was to actually join the principal and go into the classroom and do some site visits. Mm-hmm. And that was very telling for me because what I learned was that even principals didn't fully or couldn't fully define co-teaching. Because many times what I saw was very good inclusion, but not really co-teaching. So I was really glad that we were able to bring Dr. Lisa Deeker in because I think it helped clarify and define what co-teaching is, even among our principals.
So what direction do you see us moving in with co-teaching in the future?
So it depends on how you define it. If you define it with co-teaching 2 teachers in the classroom all day doing the dance,
And do we have any of those
we do.
all day?
All day, yes, we do. But will we be able to continue that with the budget implications? No, we won't. But back up for a minute. What's behind co-teaching? It's about inclusive practices.
Right.
So let's keep the momentum going about inclusive practices. So, what the leadership team has decided to do is to work with our faculty meetings and having our staff bring the Lisa Deca Purple Book to all faculty meetings and be able to kind of unpack it and have teachers report out, this is what I tried from inclusive practices, this is what I have going on in my classroom. Why don't you come over to our building and see how we're doing this, to really keep the momentum moving. We also kicked around the idea of putting that all in our either our professional goals or our student learning goals. So we'll have some real accountability on how we're taking the Lisa Deca Purple Book and making it come alive throughout the district. And we'll discuss that further at our retreat in August, our leadership retreat in August. And I have recommended that with every new hire, when we say welcome to BMR,
Here's your purple book.
Here's your purple book, study it well, because there will be a test, because it will be on your goals as a professional.
Great. So do we have any co-teaching classrooms? Will there be any in the next school year?
There will be in pockets. There will be in pockets, but not in the traditional sense.
So you said the traditional model and then other combinations. So that's what you see for our district.
Yes.
Correct. Do you have any update on the Kid Talks?
Yes.
I know you already mentioned them, saying that they were
Yes.
helping fix some of these
I'm very
numbers.
excited about the Kid Talks, and when I was here in the fall, I gave you all a Kid Talk packet. I have gone into the buildings, I've spoken to the staff about the idea of Kid Talk and what's behind that. And our teachers are working very hard, very busy. There's so many demands put on teachers, and one of the questions was, where do we find the time in our day to do this? It's one more thing. But in many ways, teachers are talking about kids and doing this. So what we were able to do, with Sean's help, was take it live. And we actually put the Kid Talk packet on our drop-down under our forms. So if teachers are having a Kid Talk in their classroom, they can sign onto their computer and they can go right through the Kid Talk strategies and practices. They can click and it can go right to their principal.
So the principals know that that happened in the classroom, and then do you get that as well?
No, but I meet with the principals at the elementary level weekly, and that's part of our conversation.
If we wanted to know how many Kid Talks, we could eventually get that information.
Sure.
Sounds like it would be easy.
Yeah, sounds like it'd be really easy. That's cool.
I would love to see a Lisa Deca Purple Book someday.
I was just going to say, may I have a copy of the Kid Talk
Absolutely.
package and the,
Yes, we can absolutely make that available to you.
Anything else for Loretta? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Moving along, we have Mrs. Sheridan to report on our food service progress this year. Lots going on as usual.
And breakfast.
I do know because I was a
breakfast
part
all
of it
over.
in a couple of schools. Invited me back.
Yeah, but did you win a bike?
No.
We served 60 breakfasts at Millville this morning.
Wow.
And I may give a bike away every month.
There you go.
Reimbursements
There
will
you
cover
go.
the cost of the bike. That's a perfect lead-in. I think, before we get started, always to thank the staff. We've got a staff who's amazing and goes on all these journeys with me, whether it's inventing, breakfast programs or Mrs. Rodriguez up at Millville when we were going to the breakfast and we weren't getting the numbers, came up with a plan that we would put the breakfast in a bag. So the children who are eligible for free and reduced benefits can use that as their snack. So little bits of thinking outside the box, and it's wonderful because we get about a $2 reimbursement on every breakfast we serve. So we have breakfast at Millville. Hopefully it will stay hot. At the high school, there were always scheduling issues with getting our breakfast program going. We probably averaged about 20 kids. You had to really want breakfast to get off the bus and find us. And not that many kids were that invested. They all sort of went to Dunkin' instead of us. But now we're modeling a new schedule for next year. So there are 3 trials. And for me, it brings the kids into because they'll be in the cafeteria. On the first day of the study, we did 60. On the second day, we did just about that. So again, we're seeing that as a model that's working. Just following along with your notes, district-wide, we're 14,000 meals more this year than last year. Wow. Again, with everybody working hard to do it. Other operational question, we had our usual Johnson & Wales intern. She spent a lot of her time at the complex and the high school this year. She did 10 classroom lessons at the complex, mostly on eating the alphabet. She also did health classes with Tracy Ducharme at the high school level on teaching kids how to make smart snack choices. So it's a good partnership. We will continue that. And it comes at no cost to the district at all, so it really is a nice one. Menu items, simple stuff, buffalo chicken nachos. I think everything is chicken street tacos, chicken hamburger Sundays. We serve a lot of chicken, but that I think is the way of so many kids eating. So we have fun with the menu items. Staffing, in the last contract negotiation, we have always had head cooks, but over the years they have progressed really into more of a cook manager position where they're giving direction, they're responsible, they're doing ordering. So I was very pleased that through negotiations we now have a cook manager classification. We're able to compensate a little bit, but really recognize their role in the kitchens. I'm going to go forward, and then I'm going to come back to the financial piece. Happy or sad news at the high school, we have a 50-year-old or so kettle that finally croaked. The unfortunate part of those units is they're all one pieces, so not only did we lose our steamers, we lost our kettle, and the replacement cost was $60,000 minimum to start with. And while we do okay with our finances, it would have been a tough nut to swallow. With all the time we were spending up at Millville, we were looking at a bank of equipment that they had up there, and finally it worked out that if we bought them one new piece of equipment, we could move 3 pieces to the high school. So for under $10,000, Millville's getting a brand new steamer, and we're moving everything down to the high school. So the high school is going to think they're getting deluxe accommodations now. They'll be getting a steamer, a kettle, and a tilting skillet. So I think that was, again, a great creative move to think how you get outside the box and find what you want. Other things in the high school for next year. Mr. Keefe, I don't know if you're gone, right? Next year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to have a full salad bar at the high school next year. And we also have a vision of having a coffee bar at the high school. We got to work on that. When I was with Mr. Dudek today, we were talking about how we make it an intimate space. We have a lot of white tile to make you think you're going to be at Starbucks.
Expect to run Dunkin' out of business.
Yeah, I don't even think we're going to come close. So, but for me, it makes me happy that we're seeing those changes at the high school, because it's probably been the least changeable school, and that comes with having a new manager there. A manager came over from Tri-County due to an opening, and we're making the changes we want to do. Financials from the bottom up, our revenues are about 7% above last year, which is wonderful. We will end the year with a positive in the black, Mrs. Cobb.
Somebody.
But the challenge has always been, as you know, we were here last meeting, we were talking about meal charging. Mrs. Ruggiero we came up with a beautiful policy. The policy went on the website. It's where it needs to be. And starting the day after the meeting, we stopped serving an alternative lunch. Simple. We didn't do it anymore. In February, our negative balances were $746. Yesterday, they were $1,698. We have 7 families who are in excess of $50 right now. We've done the stuff that we had committed to doing. We send regular emails to the families. We've sent snail mail, formal letters. I have it in the policy. I don't know if anybody needs to see what the letter looks like, but we're pretty specific. You know, if the balance, this is after a 2-week window, if the balances continue to escalate, you know, we can deem it delinquent, we can look at a collection agency, we can do a court. And then the next paragraph came out, if a student's account is not good standing at the end of the school year, the administration may take one or more of the following actions: delay report cards, class assignments, collection agency again. And I don't know that we're at that point today because we're so new in the process, but I think it's the time that we now have to put the rubber on the road and say, are we going to step 2?
I voted for that, and with
Clear understanding.
Clear understanding that that was starting from day 1 as well.
Yeah.
So I hope nobody got their diploma last week that is on that list.
The high school seniors were settled. That was taken care of.
That is a goal 75 cents
of
and
ours.
I paid it.
But I mean, now correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Himmelberger, but I think that those 7 families are going to be placed in the hands of the administrators. Report cards, class assignments, and that needs to be followed through to a T. So the policy is taken seriously as well.
Right, because our goal, and I have to speak for Bill, who's not here anymore, but was really not to shame the children. That was our goal, and that is happening, and I think that's great. But the parents have responsibility for that.
We're not.
And I know, I mean, we have emailed, and I know that the letters asking them to settle their bills are clearly not working. Those balances are increasing.
Right, there was no spike.
And at that point, I know we felt it wasn't really the principal's job to, start sending these letters and get involved, but at this point, it is. It's the end of the year, and if a student's on that list, they need to not get their report card.
Go.
I couldn't agree with you more, and obviously Dr. Thompson and I will be making those outreaches over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
It could even be that these families may need to apply for the reduced aid.
Yeah,
You may
free and
find
reduced.
That's
Yeah.
generally not an issue. In
Not with
even
this.
our very first series of that, they're getting an additional application.
Okay.
We know historically that's not the issue.
So we just need to be, we set the policy for a reason, and I fully expect it to be
Yeah.
implemented as worded by Bill.
$50 adds up fast. My kid spends $5-6 a day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take long for them to hit that.
Our highest right now is about $140.
You know?
Okay.
So
I feel like I get it.
$140
dollars.
Yep.
somebody has?
Is that for more than one child?
No. So,
Or that would be handled with our policy?
okay, we will come up with a plan when we meet this week and figure out what the next step is.
I don't know that that's I mean, it has to be somebody's burden, and it needs to be a burden, and I get that. But I do think the principals need to receive a list of those students who have the balances and not
The parents.
send the report card home. Do you think? I mean, that's, I don't know what else.
That is what we voted on.
That's what, yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
would prefer that it comes from the business office and administration.
Yep.
Primarily because principals do not function most efficiently as collectors. That would certainly be the business office and central office and
Right, but the
administration.
principal will be the one, when
Giving
the,
out the
when the
report
child isn't getting the report card or the class assignment,
In the
that
class.
is, that directing them to the business office.
Correct, yes.
Knowing,
Yeah.
you know, that they're unfortunately gonna have to be the middleman on the,
Yeah.
because we wrote it as administrators.
Right. Correct.
I will have a report for the committee on the 22nd.
Okay.
And we're not, I mean, it's not pay your $140 or nothing, it's work out a payment plan, or, you know.
We're going to be as sensitive to people as we
Sure,
can be.
sure,
It's-
you have
there's-
been.
That's
I mean,
not our, you know, we're not, it's not retribution. It's how you do it and keep dignity and
Yep.
just not put it on everybody, you know, put it on the cashiers to make those decisions. So I think we'll go forward, and that's my story. I don't know,
You know, if you-
I will keep you in the loop. If you have any other questions for us, as I said, we've had a good year. We're looking forward to,
And we are not increasing lunch prices next year?
we have not talked about the need to
At
do
this
that. We'll
point,
probably be a
anyway.
year from now, we'll
Okay.
probably be back talking to
But
you.
your net profit is $20,700, correct?
At the, hold on, let me get the right sheet up, because at the end of May, no, it's actually the column to the left of that. That was because we went on to 2 pages, the year-to-date figure, if you go, the monthly report, it compares this May to last May. It's the single sheet, if you show it
This
to
one?
me. That's the one. If you go down on the bottom, where it says net profit, the furthest column to the right is last year. The column to the left of that is
38?
this year.
Right here, okay.
So that's where we are
So,
right
yeah,
now.
I wouldn't even worry.
No. Oh, no, I just want to make sure we weren't.
Okay, any questions, or?
No, thank you for what you
No,
did.
thank you. We
Thank
love
you.
what we do and are pleased to be here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along, we have Mrs. Cobb to give us a financial update.
When?
Okay, there's some good news from cafeteria. There will be 2 parts of my presentation. The first part will be an update on the expenses and the revenue report, and the second day will be the renewals during the year. We, as the school committee knows, that we had a very tight budget year with just 1% increase from last year, and with the circuit breaker going down and the kindergarten grant going away, and it has been challenging. The goal was not to touch END, and we've been here so far. The balance of the expenditure now is negative $86,716. The deficit was a result of the budget reduction and the unbudgeted items, such as the payments to Recovery High School and the roof repairs at the middle school and the complex. At the middle school, there were 1,267 holes on the roof. And the fixing of the burner and the boiler at the middle school, high school, and the complex, and living time buyback, early retirement incentive, and also the elevator. I didn't mention that in the report, but elevator fix. To close the year, we will continue to close the open POs and make final payroll adjustments and use the available revolving funds to balance the budget in the next 5 weeks. Hopefully, we can close the year at budget without touching END. Revenue balance, I didn't put in the report, but if you go to attachment B,
B?
yeah, B. The balance is 25,000. We had a very good year with Medicaid reimbursement again. Last year was 185,000, as Loretta mentioned, and this year will be 210,000. However, our school choice assessment has been increased, so that's the deduction to Chapter 70. So in my last report, I mentioned that the state reassess school choice deduction 3 times a year. Unfortunately, it has been going up. So the next page is the back page, revenues. So if we look at the bottom line, we will be short for almost 93,000 on back page. Which means when we close the year, the E&D will be reduced for that amount. Any questions about expenses or revenues?
Anybody have any questions for Lynn?
I would like to know the last time, and I know it's greater than 5 years because that's how long I've sat here. When is the last time that the school committee finished on a negative balance and had to transfer money from E&D to cover a previous budget year? Because I definitely understand the roof issues. I don't agree with the ones that we just paid for on our brand new roofs. But to say that the deficit is a result of budget reductions, we had to reduce our budget on July 1st. So we should have been operating on a reduced budget. So when is the last time a school committee sitting at this table, or probably in another building, because I'm going to guess it's been a long time, that we have had a negative balance at the end of our budget year?
I don't know.
But I don't, I mean, I think that's as reflective of the need to work with our communities to meet the needs of the school.
But we knew we didn't have that money last July.
Yeah, but we didn't do anything extravagant. We didn't hire lots of new people. We started a new program. We had a new teacher in the
Those should
fifth
be on this
grade.
list.
They
just
should be on this list because of need. But, that's to me, this report to me is the greatest argument to take to the town of Millville and say we can't. No,
They're
but
gonna say
but
you
we
spent money
can't.
you didn't have.
We can't survive on decreased budgets. We can't.
Right, but let's back up to September. September, we approved a 5th grade teacher in Millville. October, we approved an ELL teacher at the complex. And we were told every time we made those approvals that the money was coming from another place. So to have a negative balance of $86,000, and I've asked at every other meeting that Wen brought us an update to, how bad is it, Wen? How negative are we going to be? And the answer was, I hope we're not negative. To get this information on June 8th, I'm not going to say I'm surprised. I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it was this big. And I think it's an embarrassment that we didn't run our budget within the means that were approved by our towns last summer.
I totally take offense to the word embarrassment on a budget. This is a confluence of factors that have been building up for 8 to 10 years. This budget has been managed every single week. School budgets have tremendous flexibility, both positive and negative. This is a result of a general fund budget that has averaged 0.6% growth a year for the last 8 years. There's probably not a school district in the Commonwealth that can make that claim. So I hope that everybody watching and I hope everyone listening, if you've got concerns and want to come down, I will be very happy, and Mrs. Cobb will be very happy to take you through all of the budget lines, all of the accounts. We said it a year ago. We didn't have enough money to operate. We knew that we would probably have to go to E&D. There are so many factors at play here. And so if there are any concerns about the integrity of the operation of this district, all we need to do is look at the history.
Is there, so if the $86,000, which I know that's not a final number yet, is coming out of our E&D, and we are right now committed to 140,000?
No, it's not, it's not, no.
Mrs. Vanaka, no,
Yeah.
the 86 will be balanced
Right.
as we continue to close the year. That 86
You're hoping it's...
will not come from E&D. That's the goal, to stay out of E&D, because that's down to 1.8%.
Right.
That's down to 400,000
That's where it's
because the
revolving.
school committee has been forced over the last 4 years to commit $1.55 million from the E&D accounts. The town's additional contribution for the last 4 years was 1.528. So the school committee has given more money than the towns have to maintain the operation of our schools.
Is the
Pub-
1.8 with the 140?
I'm sorry?
Is the 1.8 with the 140 we committed to?
Yes, we
for
had
next year?
540 approximately certified. So the school committee, upon recommendation, has offset the budget by 140,000. That leaves E&D at 400,
Okay.
which is 1.8% of the amount that we are allowed to carry. So we are at a critical stage on the 50th anniversary of the formation of Blackstone Millville Regional School District. We are at a critical stage. In order to allow all of the opportunities that we can give our students to continue. And nobody wants to go backwards. We all want to stay at least steady and try and put the plans together to move forward. But it's important for everyone to know that we are at a critical stage. We have gone too long with aging infrastructure. We have taken the steps to correct that, but it's going to take some more time to get the funding flowing from MSBA. And there are a lot of other variables that we need to be able to manage as we go forward. But I believe, and Mrs. Kopp can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the goal would be, if we're at a minus 86,000 on 22 million, which was a 1% growth budget, we can manage to that. And we will hopefully not have to come to the committee for any E&D on that general fund budget.
Can I ask a question? I apologize. I
Yeah,
just
no, yeah.
got here. The subs, it says we're at 99,892 is it in the negative? Because it's parentheses.
What page, are you on A or
I'm
B?
on
or-
A, attachment A. 2325 teaching subs.
That's negative.
That's negative.
Yeah,
So-
unfortunately, that's because of budget reduction. If you look at the 16 actual, the number was 370, and we only budget 123.
Right, so my-
Use the budget to balance the total.
Right, so my question is this one of the reductions that we had?
Yes.
Okay, so what do we have for the line item for next year for subs? Because we budgeted 370 and we're in the negative 99, so I'm just wondering what I know that was on our list of reductions.
Oh, we budgeted
We had
123.
123.
123.
Oh, I'm sorry.
370, and we were
Right.
going to try to reduce it.
Right.
And clearly, our reduction.
Right, So that's my question
Right.
leading into
Look at
next year's,
Right.
what is the number we're going with?
Right now, it's budgeted, Mrs. Greenstein, at
132,600.
132,600 for a slight
So-
increase
So the possibility is if.
on the
if-
recertified amount.
Right, so my concern is that we'll be in the negative if we
Yeah.
keep going at what we have.
And
We
same
cut
with
it, but
other
did we
lines,
really
too.
cut it? It doesn't sound like we're cutting it because we're going to be putting in more later.
Correct.
Is that right?
Same with other lines. We reduced budget in the lines we shouldn't be.
We shouldn't have done
Just
that.
to get the reduced budget total.
Right.
But if you do look at subs, I mean, we are reducing our use of subs. We didn't reduce it to the number we had hoped, but we reduced it from the FY16. Because 123 and 99 is 223, and we had 370.
Right.
So
215 is what we've spent.
yeah, whatever it adds up to.
Right. I'm just wondering at those reductions, are we going to be in this position with the reductions that we have? That's my only question.
I personally think we're going to be in this position with a lot of our budget lines, especially if we don't get the additional supplemental investment through Millville. We're going to be in this position with every line.
But we're not, because we're making the appropriate cuts to meet we're not just, like, I feel like what Wen just said was we changed it on paper and we didn't work to that number. So we definitely need the supplemental investments, but we have to work within what we budgeted in that as well. So what is the alternative to a sub? When we cut that sub line a year ago, obviously we did more than 50%. What was the alternative that we were thinking on not spending that money? Was it a different way of covering classes, or where did we, when we made that conscious decision to cut it to 123?
It's hard to plan for unexpected leaves of absence, whether they are medical, maternity, bereavement, or other. And those are when we don't have contingencies to be able to be flexible. We really are only able to manage from one line to the other. We knew last year that a 1% was not going to help us when our increases contractually were going to be 3%. We know the raw dollars that it takes. We looked at this budget, it's 94.5% is pretty much allocated before we start to make sure that we cover salary, benefits, transportation, special education, and turning the heat and the lights on. 95% of that budget, that leaves about $1.2 million to cover our curriculum initiatives, our technology, our supplies, our athletics, our music program, and the stuff that we need to keep moving forward. The discretionary dollars in this budget keep shrinking every year, and we have to manage backwards to that and find ways throughout the year. But on March 15th, if you remember the Ides of March, when we had no heat at the complex, and only by the good graces of the DPW director, Mr. Sullivan, and a terrific contractor in Mr. Page, were we able to even get that heat restored in time not to manage the alternatives. So we are working towards that. JFK has been approved for the next steps in the MSBA process, but that's 18 months, 15 months away. So we do have day-to-day challenges and day-to-day decisions as to how we spend the money. And there's nothing, I don't want to say nothing, but there's very little to cut. There's very little discretionary dollars in this budget. And we know when 4 of the previous 8 years the general fund budget was reduced, that you can't continue to operate a school district. And the fact that we are finally running out of options means that we are in a very tenuous position as we go forward. But I have confidence that we will be able to manage that deficit, to your point, Erin, that we will be able to manage that deficit without touching E&D. But to go forward with an increase in the budget, just in raw numbers, we are not top-heavy anywhere in this district. Just compared to where we were and where we need to be, not comparing us to any other district around. We are not top-heavy anywhere. We have barely restored the bare bones minimum, and we're still behind the curve. And so $220,000 of an increase this year didn't do it. And $430,000 of an increase for next year is not going to do it. Not when you've had reductions in 4 of the previous 8 years. It is unconscionable to think anything else is going to happen. And so it behooves us to continue to manage this budget the best way that we can, but we also need everyone to understand that. Education is messy. Public education is not easy to grasp. The finance and the funding of it, we have Melissa King, who's the Director of School Finance from the Department of Ed, coming next Thursday. I hope that everyone is there to ask these same questions. When we had our DESE targeted review visit, May 22nd to the 24th, they had nothing to report to us at the end of that visit because they were shell-shocked as to how we could continue to do as well as we have done with that kind of funding. And the answer to that is because we have talented educators doing everything they can. And we have pretty good students, too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. It is not a pretty picture. It cannot be sugar-coated. It cannot be swept under the rug. We are in a very tenuous position as we look at the 50th anniversary of the formation of this district. And in spite of it all, we have teachers like the 5 that you saw retired, like Mr. Gaudette, who do great things. And you have a leadership team that works and works and works to do the best that we can with what we have to work with. We are getting our grants reduced or taken away. There is nothing in the 114 grants that the Department of Ed manages, state and federal, that we qualify for. So in some ways, we are the victim of our success because our students do well when they leave us. Mr. Keefe, I can point to as an outstanding example. But in order to continue, it is going to take a commitment from both towns to decide where we should go. And if the goal is to continue to allow students to migrate to other options because we can't continue to offer what they need, then that will solve one of the issues, because we won't need 23 or 24 million. We'll only need 19. So that's where we are. And again, if there is anyone out there who wants to come in and go through line by line, we are happy to show and do and make folks understand the depth of the situation.
Thank you. Any other questions for Wynn? Thank you, Wynn. Not an easy job.
You want me to update the renewals? We have a new school bus contract with 13,140 increase. or 1.31% increase. It's much better than the last bid we received that we rejected last year. And the electricity bid has a reduction by of 8%. So if the usage stays the same, we're going to save $13,000. In January, we renewed the senior Medicare supplemental plan at a 7.85% increase for Medex 2 and 8.4% increase for Managed Blue. And it is an 18,000 budget increase. And in July, we renewed our active employee plan at average of 6% increase or 162,000 increase to the budget. And the dental increase has dental insurance has an increase of 7.8% or $20,000 increase. Life insurance is locked for 1 more year through August the 31st, 2018, and we are still looking to quote this year. And we also provide more benefit to our employees. We implemented FSA, flexible savings account, spending account, and 403B plans for our employees. And we also offered wellness programs. Again, we want to make us a healthier district because we've been through a long negotiation with our health insurance plan, and we hope the claims will go down. Thank you. That's it.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean.
Moving along to Mr. Bozan to fill us in on all things technology.
Good evening. If there aren't any questions on the first 2 pages, I'd like to move on to the meat and potatoes, the fun stuff.
Move it.
On page 4. Objections, no questions? Awesome. The 15th of this month, I'll be here 9 months, and I can tell you it's been a pleasure. The culture here is phenomenal. What irks me is coming from another district, and I'm just speaking my mind here through experience as well, is the wait that people have to wait. It's by your layman's terms, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm going to get to those stats. It frustrates me and it hurts me. There was an incident, I shouldn't say incident, there was a piece of software needed for a special ed student that really nailed it home for me. It took us almost 2 weeks to get to the software install, even though we're trying to do triage with equipment. And I remember Sue Beauchard looked at me, and I kind of got a little teary-eyed a little bit. Might have been the pollen, I'm not sure. But she said, John, that's a good thing. And I said, why? And she said, well, watch him. And it just brought me around. But it irks you as a technology supporter. It's never fast enough, but we're working on it. So let me start with the ongoing and planned projects / initiatives. First, let me mention the wireless analysis and adjustments. We have a great backbone now, some great equipment, but we need to keep an eye on it, especially with our Chromebook initiative, which you'll see the subset there of bandwidth increases. You can't just keep adding devices and expect, hey, that's good. I'm sure many of you experience that at home. You add 2 more devices, and you're like, why is this slow? We've got to keep an eye on it. We've got to make some adjustments. We found some, they call it bleeding, APs too close, so we need to move them to different areas. We need to expand in certain areas, like the cafeteria, because the original plan was to cover all educational spaces. Well, what is an educational space? It's a traditional classroom. I think that we need to, I know that we need to expand our cafeterias because the kids are allowed to use their devices in the cafeteria. So we're going to add 2 more APs in each cafeteria. We are planning on retiring and replacing and migrating some of our server environment that's aging. We're going to put a true backup and disaster plan together. We're working on it now for next year. That would incorporate our new virtual environment. The Chrome one-to-one and cards, that's one of the projects that we're going to expand next year. One of our initiatives this year was to put a true help desk together to make it easier for our users, including students, to be able to ask questions or let us know something's broken. Many a time we go to a lab, and it's not just in this district, people take a Post-it note and they put it on the monitor, waiting for somebody to see it. So the kids have the ability and the teachers have the ability to, they can take a picture of it and send it. We can see the picture of the number on the monitor. I'll get to those stats a little further down. The VoIP system, we're going to be bringing in some more vendors. We do have 2 quotes right now. One is about 2 years old. One, I had a vendor come in who I've worked with prior to sharpen their pencil and look at voice over IP phone system. Imagine how hard it is to you work on the computer and you pick up the phone and like they don't have a phone in the classroom. So we'll drive over and take care of it usually. So it gets kind of frustrating. Data systems communications. I put Data Bridge there. We have quite a few systems that need to communicate. It would make it easier to keep updates. One of those systems is, people call it X2. It's made by Follett. That's our student information system. We're going to be, hopefully this summer, communicating with all stakeholders to give them access to the portal so that when they update their information, that system bridges to other systems. So you kind of give the onus of the user to update their info. Where does that also talk with? It talks with our one-call system, so that our one-call system is always updated. Instead of you get a call and say, hey, well, it wasn't updated. You just keep reminding your users, hey, keep it updated in the portal, and it'll flow to the other systems. This year I had the privilege of working with Mr. Dudek and the other principals to talk about the equipment that's in the buildings. And this year we're going to, this coming year, we're going to continue the conversations on Chromebooks, PCs, and look at the cost to do that, because we do have our newest desktop in the classroom is almost 5 years old. And typically you look at refreshes at 4, no more than 5 years old, because then you start putting parts in that are worth more than the actual device. There was an initiative put in place for a safety alert system. We're looking at putting that into place this summer. Print management software was another piece of software called Paper Cuts that we're going to be putting in place to drill down the amount of printing that's done. How it works is basically you go to print and it says, wait a second, you can't print to that printer, you got to print to the copier because it's 60 pages times 40. And it takes some conditioning with the user, so it's not immediate. The other factor to that is, and you see it even in business, is people that don't have something like that in place, a redirect or a badge system, what happens is somebody goes, oh yeah, I'll just print it and I'll pick it up on my way out. And they forget about it. And they're like, I'll just reprint it tomorrow. So it starts stacking up. So we're looking at either a key access or a RFD system. Currently we have an RFD system, but we haven't put it in place. Apple School Manager, we have 120 iPads ranging anywhere from first generation to fourth generation. And it's very hard to manage the software that goes on them. We physically need to touch them. So Apple released a, it's not really a mobile device management, I put MDM there. With Apple's School Manager and Meraki, we are going to be able to, when a teacher calls and says, hey, we need this, and the administrator approves it, we can push it to that device. without having to drive over to another school or have them deliver it to us, whatever way, send a carrier pigeon, whatever it is, we can do it through our new network. So we're hoping to put that in place this summer. Let me get to the completed projects this year. I had mentioned the new help desk system. Let me drill into that a little more. It's not just a portal. So the old system you could email and it just went into like a general email. This actually tracks it. So if you were to send an email to it, it immediately responds automatically, and it goes into a system that notifies whoever's supposed to know to receive it. In this case, right now, it's me and Sam. So they can also do that through the portal. They can email it or log into the portal. They can log into the portal and see a status. But anytime one of our techs works on a ticket and updates it, the person that submitted the ticket, so to speak, gets an update. But they can also log into the portal and look at it that way. Let me drill into the stats here. Since November 7th, when we put it in place, to the 5th of this month, which is 144 work days, we've handled 129 tickets. The average first response time, that's not the automated response time, that's from either me or Sam, is 1 day, 6 hours, and 33 minutes. The average ticket close time, not including projects, is 6 days, 11 hours, and 20 minutes. So we're going to try to drill into that, but there's a lot of factors here. There's manpower, there's supply of parts, all things that, impact budget. And that's where I started the conversation when I said where it irks me, and it really hits me to heart is when we have to wait a week to get an LCD bulb because we're ordering it just in time, and then we have to go and put it in, and that bulb is projecting learning materials. So the teacher has to change gears, and that's where I get to the culture. This administration and this faculty is phenomenal when it comes to that, of adjusting. They hop to 1 foot and on one piggy toe just to get it done. They're good at switching gears. So one of the other projects that we finished this year, and I can't take credit for it, I can say that Bridget and I worked together, Bridget Walsh, to redesign the look of and the navigation of the website. You all are familiar with the Chrome one-to-one initiative that we put in place. Together, we put grades 9 and 10, which is 274 devices. There's Guardian software that was configured with it. We reconfigured the Google Administrative Console, which manages every district device as well as the student devices, and provisioning and distribution. I put that in there because it's very time consuming. The device comes in a box, you take it out, you have to unwrap it, you have to turn it on, plug it in, charge it, and get it into the Google console and then assign it to someone. Are there any questions so far?
Anyone? No? Keep going.
Thank you. I mentioned this, but reprovisioning and secured all existing district Chromebooks. There were quite a few Chromebooks that weren't in a network, and just like Google Admin, you have folders, which we call organizational units. And students are different than staff, and staff are different than administration. They all have their little nuances. So we went through and we drilled through every card, every teacher that had their individual one, to check the shape of the device, as well as make sure that they were getting what they needed. As well as went over the process via email. We sent out a notification to the teachers to let them know that the kids just can't get any app or extension, and just reminded them, just because you can get it doesn't mean they can. So please just send us a help desk so that we can make sure that they can get whatever they need in a timely fashion. When I came on board, and you guys will probably notice it if you look at your phones right now, we haven't shut them down yet because we didn't know what was connected to it. The wireless was finished but not completely tweaked, I will say, back in September when I came in. And Sam and I worked diligently to retweak it. So we couldn't shut down. When you see in other buildings, you'll see private, you'll see guest, you'll see 3 other networks. We couldn't shut it down because we didn't know at that point what was connected to it. So very time consuming to go and find all of those devices to make sure that they weren't connected to it. And we opted to leave those, they call it an SSID, networks, wireless networks, open for the year, just so that we didn't inconvenience somebody. Any new device coming on went on to the true new networks. plus they're peppier, the newer networks. Big one this year, MCAS 2.0 for this district. It was my 4th year doing it. Again, very pleased with the faculty and administration support to make this happen. We put in approximately 100, well, exactly 165 hard drives that just we didn't have the space to be able to do the MCAS 2.0 testing. We configured each Chromebook in the district, which is approximately 280, to be able to be in the right OU to get the app TestNav to properly run. And during that week, as you can imagine, I've seen it in other districts, the resources of the district get tied up. So all of our labs, all of the Chromebooks are tied up, which holds up everyone else that's doing 21st century teaching. And it was 4 weeks. The 5th week, I think we only had 5 or 6 retests district-wide. Kids were out sick or on vacation. But it went very well. I can say very well because it was my 4th year doing it, and it was for first-year teachers doing this. They were phenomenal. And also having 2 people to manage 3 buildings while they're all taking testing was good. Any questions?
Go ahead. Just to back up a little, you said replacement of the PCs. So I think what I took from that was we're probably going to replace them with Chromebooks instead of PCs.
That's the discussion.
Okay.
So
and
what
that's
happens
talking
is
about
you've
like
got
a computer lab here in the classrooms for the teachers. That's where the PCs
but
are.
there needs to be a discussion. Central Office uses all of Microsoft products. I don't want to say as bold as the majority of the world does use, not education uses Microsoft's products. It's growing in business with Google. Education loves Google. So you got a central office that's using, the teachers are fine with it, but central office is sending it out to, other business offices that are, the majority of them are using Microsoft. So the discussion needs to be along the lines of how to transform from using a PC to a Chromebook, or do we want to keep a PC? Because you can buy a PC, it's a lot more expensive. There's little issues that come up. You buy the PC, it's more expensive than a Chromebook because you can run pretty much everything off Chrome, which is a browser, not a Chromebook. So pedagogy comes in line. It's going to take some discussions, and I didn't mention it here, but in my first 2 pages, I talk about a school committee, a technology committee. I really don't like that term, technology committee. I like group. But it needs to be from all stakeholders across the building, secretaries, custodians, students, school committee members, if you choose to join, and administrators. So, because secretaries do different things with a Chromebook than a teacher does. And that discussion needs to happen in a group setting.
Thank you.
That answer your
I'm
question?
glad you're putting so much thought into that, yes. Yeah, it does.
We're moving that way this year in Franklin and administrate, it's scary.
Building wide.
The whole, everybody is moving, so
To
that's
Google?
to Google.
Well, when you look at the cost
Everything.
of storage and backup, like I have some numbers in here for backup, that is going to decrease as we start going to the cloud. But right now, we have a lot of data that for 7 years I have to keep, or we have to keep it by law. Email, that's not part of our archiving, but I digress. It's that cost will come down, but it's that change that is, it has a value to it, whether people realize it or not. We don't like the change as humans, but if it takes you an extra 5 or 10 minutes to do something with Microsoft Office or Google or vice versa, frustration has a cost too. So, but we need to have that discussion so that we're all frustrated at the same time.
I just have one question based on something that you just said earlier. I know our big push is Chromebooks, but I worry a little bit about those bulbs, in the places that don't have Chromebooks yet, and it being the 21st century learning, do we have some type of, in the budget, are we supporting, bulbs and things of that nature that, teachers aren't waiting a week
to get those things. And we're pushing, I mean, I know we're pushing into the Google and into the Chromebooks, but I still think that has a huge benefit to when we don't have those Chromebooks. I'm just wondering where we're at with that.
At the beginning of this year, we had 5 extra bulbs for 5 buildings, and it was actually 10, but between 4 different models. So condensing what we do is going to be, again, another discussion, because we have, I think, 8 different models of, actually, I misstated that. I think it's 5 different models of LCD projectors, and the industry's gone flat panel. You've got people using smart boards. So again, coming to the group to talk, interactive boards, and in your district, Mr. Raposa and I talk about this all the time. You have flat panels. What's next? Do we go flat panel? It's about the same cost of buying a smart board, but then you get to buy the smart software. The interactivity is what most teachers want, is what I find. Again, we'll go to a group and find out. But I think the industry personally is going with an interactive projector. So, but to answer your question on the bulbs.
I know that those bulbs are, I mean, our janitors come around and we get in trouble for not turning them off at the end of the day. And I know I've driven by our elementary schools and we see the blue screen, and I know that I would be in trouble if I left that on. You know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm just wondering, little sticky notes, shut your bulb off, because they are, I mean, how much is one of those bulbs?
Well, they range anywhere from $88 to $300.
Right. So I mean,
on the model.
It sounds funny, but that
needs to be a kid's
that's a huge that's a huge you know, think of the life of that bulb. And like I said, in our elementary schools, we don't have those those one-to-one. So how are we supporting that 21st century? So I just want to make sure that we're covered. If it's 10 bulbs, then we have 10 bulbs, and we make sure that
we made it through the year.
Okay.
I don't want to make it as, I hope I didn't make it sound dire, but we can have the bulb, but it's getting there and getting it done.
Right, okay.
I just want to comment on your mention of the bulbs and the projectors. My personal thought is that, and I'm hoping that when we meet as a group, they'll see the interactivity of it's a short throw projector, but you talked about leaving them on at night. They're networkable, and you can tell them go off at this time. Which
is great, because it is something that's very common to forget.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I hate to say set it and forget it. You set the time in each building and when it's going to go off, hopefully not during a school committee meeting and when a projector is being used, but it's a nice device.
Off. Go ahead.
Are there any other questions? You want me to go line item by line item on the money, on the timeline of the budget here?
Does anybody can see it? No, but I do appreciate, you know, I know our towns always say, we don't have projections, we don't have, you know, outward. Well, we've been having technology projections for, 3 years, 4 years now, and this takes us out 5 years. And so it's tremendous information for us to have. And I know you guys are a very small team, and we've asked you to do a yeoman's job, but you've done it, and it's appreciated. And maybe people don't tell you that very often, but we've only been able to make small strides in this district, but those small strides have had huge impact, and so we really appreciate what you do.
I like to have fun with what we do.
There we go. Anybody? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bozan. Well done.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. For the last time, unfortunately, Dr. David Thompson with his curriculum and instructional update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hillenberger. When I started here 3 years ago, discovered a curriculum and materials that were kind of outdated, some lack of articulation vertically, horizontally, and PD that was spotty in regards to fostering best practice. So kind of go through where we were and where we are now 3 years later. Curriculum mapping, as you remember, the Edwin Teaching and Learning platform disappeared in the spring of 2015 and set us back a year. We had to find a new vendor. I had to train the staff on how to use X2 Aspen for curriculum and do the and kind of redo that first year again. So we redid that. This past year has been really focused on the Understanding by Design model and getting stage one, setting the expectations and getting those into Aspen. I'm pleased to announce that we are done with that, the exception being elementary, because they are teaching 4 subjects. They've got math and ELA done. We need to go back and actually put science and social studies in. Going forward, we need to start with stage 2. Stage 2 is where you set the activities and the measurements to see if the learning is there. So we need to talk about Teachers 21 coming in and doing another half-day session and facilitating teachers time for teachers to develop these assessments and activities that provide the student evidence for learning. Of course, the problem with that, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, is funding, with the PD budget being significantly cut. Although that is not a high-cost item, there still is a cost involved. Literacy program, I'm pleased to announce that we have finished our 5-year PD with Teachers for Teachers for literacy. It is implemented with integrity at this point. We had level book rooms in all of our elementary schools. They're using common assessments with the literacy program and using RTI along with that as well. Of course, the problem with the literacy program right now is that although we have a good basis for that, we are not able this year coming up because of the budget problems that we are experiencing to add to our level book rooms. That's one of the things that were cut out of the budget. I would strongly recommend that this continue, get back on track as soon as possible, because we need to keep adding books to those. The book rooms are good. They're not great at this point. We probably need 2 to 3 more years of dumping about $5,000 to $10,000 into those book rooms. And then from there, we can kind of have a maintenance sort of piece, because there is new great books coming out every year, and it's a shame to have 10 and 15-year-old books that our students are looking at and ignoring a program. A writing program. Now that we have the literacy program done, we have it sketched out in Understanding by Design. We were looking at a writing program for next year, one that would fall in nicely with the Teachers for Teachers program. We had a committee that did that. The problem is that we are doing writing, but we don't have a consistent approach to writing, and in fact, you can find differences among and between grade levels and schools. We're not using the same language throughout the district, much like we had seen, again, back 3 years ago, that disjunct curriculum. We have formed a committee. We did research and have chosen a program to implement, Empowering Writers. We do have a quote for that. However, funding, once again, is suspect for the implementation of this year. And just to stress, the lack of a writing program is showing up every single year on our MCAS scores, okay? So that needs to be addressed at the elementary level. Science standards. We have worked on the science standards. We have a couple elementary teachers who have really worked on unpacking those. The middle school has done a fine job of really doing a scope and sequence as to what those science standards would be. Just for those out there who do not understand the difference, this is a hands-on, and they're learning and doing science, okay? It's not the old science when you read about something and answer questions. It's about doing science and thinking scientifically, which is what students will really be able to do, or should be able to do in the real world. The problem is we don't have materials to do that kind of inquiry-based science, that hands-on experimental science. We have the expertise at the middle school. We have some materials. We don't have all of them, and we definitely do not have all of the tools that you would need to do science in our classrooms. This is especially problematic at the elementary level. Most districts are buying kits where you have these kits and they come out and they do science and answer questions and do scientific inquiry. Again, we do not have the budget to do that. I don't need to remind anyone here that the STEM and STEAM fields are the greatest growing sector of our economy, and it's where the jobs of the future are and reside. If we don't move quickly to implement these, it puts our students both at a educational and economic disadvantage. This year is the transition year, so some of this, you will have some of the old standards and some of the new standards assessed on the MCAS based on our inability to implement the science required curriculum by the state. I would expect that our science scores will not be particularly good the year after next. Math curriculum. The good news is that we have seen consistent improvement in our math program. The implementation of the Visions program was done very, very well. It was difficult. It was a total change of what the math instruction model was before. And we are building on that success from last year. I think if you looked at the first round of MCAS scores, we really didn't see dips, which you normally see when you jump wholeheartedly into a program. And that's a testament to the commitment of our teachers. In 7th grade, this year we brought big ideas, or sorry, 6th grade, we brought big ideas into the middle school. That has gone very well. Those kids will have big ideas 7th grade next year. What we have discussed and decided to do is we are actually going to buy the advanced 7th grade book for all 7th grade students. Some of those will do that that book in 1 year. Some will do that book over 2 years. And the hope is that we will have more and more kids doing that book eventually in 1 year. The advantage of doing that is that we can group them, and we need to figure out who's going to be in the advanced track and who's going to be in the college prep or regular track. Is that because 7th grade is a tough year to figure that out, but if you have the same topic starting off, you can make adjustments in that first month to 6 weeks if a kid is not appropriately placed. So this math initiative needs to continue. It would be a travesty if these kids who have gone through from Envisions to Big Ideas were all of a sudden dropped midstream. It would not get them to where they need to be, and we will see continued improvement as the children come up, have more and more experience in the Vision program. So with that, STARS assessment system. If you remember 2 years ago, the middle school piloted the STARS assessment program. We were able to implement STARS throughout the district, although not as much as we wanted to. We wanted to put the full complement in. But again, last year, because of the budget shortfall, instead of having about $40,000 to implement STARS, we only had $20,000, so we did not get the full STARS assessment. That has gone very, very well. It is well appreciated by the teachers. It is being used not just to monitor progress, but also to intervene and used during our intervention time. And unfortunately, it's only being used at the high school in grade 9 math. Unfortunately, again, due to the budget shortfall, that level of STARS would continue as it is right now with the current budget. If that budget is not supported later on, hopefully this month in Millville, we would have to take a step back there.
Can I ask a quick question?
You can.
Is there like a usage data usage to know how often that STARS is being used?
Well, I can tell you, it's being what they are doing now is they are using it at the elementary level on the trimesters, at each trimester. Okay, and again, that is an issue. I mean, you could have kids on there, and actually at the middle school, they are using it in their tier 3 intervention groups weekly.
Right.
Okay, but at the elementary level, get on another one of my horses, we do not have the technology to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, you do not have the technology to use it to its full capacity. It also is not the one that they have is not customizable. The one at the middle school they do have is customizable. They can make their own reports, their own assessments ongoing and change them, and they can go on here at the middle school and do activities on the computer. That is not what we have at the elementary level. So it is being done at each trimester to monitor progress. Okay, and what they will do at the end of the year, I believe, is that they will be using at the end of the year and using that information going forward. So when they come in, you have some basic information as well. Okay, curriculum leadership, and again, looking back to 3 years ago, Not that I want to toot my own horn, but working collaboratively with teachers and other leaders, principals in the district, I think we have brought together a lot of these curriculums and have the articulation. I am deeply concerned about not having that type of curriculum leadership going forward, as we are not necessarily doing a whole bunch of new initiatives this year. We might limp through for 1 year, but to not have someone quickly coming back into a curriculum leadership role, you're going to be back to where you were in short order 3 years ago. I have to compliment the staff in this district. They are very dedicated. They're very hardworking. They do whatever they can for the kids. They have worked for years with barely anything. The past 3 years, we have been able to get them new textbooks, modern PD, modern curriculum for them to use, and we're starting to see growth. But again, I'm concerned about that not continuing. I think back to this past fall when we were doing our MCAS presentation, and we had townspeople in here questioning what we, the school district, were going to do about our stagnant MCAS scores. I think that's a very apropos question at this point, because the question really should be, what are the towns going to do? Because without the resources to educate our children, those scores are going to go back to stagnation. So I would urge the communities to look long and hard at the funding of this district. And I know it's not entirely, should not entirely be on the towns, as we have federal and state issues as well. There is a state foundation budget meeting coming up. Mr. Hillenberger mentioned it just a little bit ago. But people need to show up at that, and that formula is grossly outdated. The federal budget that is being proposed is disastrous to public education on multiple levels. Title I money going for choice schools. Title II and Title IIA money not coming for PD is really going to affect the most disadvantaged children who are served by our public schools. And again, I want to go back to the teachers in this district. The progress we've made due to this talented bunch, their dedication, and I have to say, we've really challenged them the last 3 years to make some changes, and change is hard, as Mr. Bozon said earlier. But to continue to send them into classrooms with outdated materials, outdated curriculum, PD that really does not meet the needs of our students in a 21st century learning environment is really not going to move this community forward. And unfortunately, as I leave, my fear is that we're going to go back to that state. So that is my State of the Union.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any comments?
I don't know what we're going to do without you, Dave. That's like, I'm sitting here taking all these rigorous notes as you say everything, and I definitely appreciate the time and effort you've put in the past years, and I know you're going great places, but don't hit delete if you see the phone ringing.
I won't. No, honestly, it's been an honor to work with the people here. It's been an honor to be able to serve this community. I see just, and I think back, I tweeted out just yesterday, I was walking into AFM, first night to stay in a while, so they took them outside, had them doing sidewalk chalk math. Mm-hmm. Okay, now of course, the math wacko here, it got all excited, not because they were outside doing sidewalk chalk math, but they're doing envisioned strategies on the sidewalk. And they're really thinking about problem solving and looking at math differently. So, these kids can do great things. And the economy of the future is not in a factory. It's thinking and doing, and it's using technology, it's using math skills, it's working as a group. That is happening here at BMR. Incredible growth, and again, I predict you're going to see it in the math scores. But that's just one example. If you give this talented teaching staff that you have the right tools, the right support, the right PD, incredible things will happen. But unfortunately, education costs money, but ignorance is even more expensive.
I just want to jump in and I think when we brought this position on, I think it was important for people to understand that we were looking for somebody who had a big curriculum background because we had just cut a curriculum director from the budget. So when we originally brought that position on, that was our main focus, and I think you've met that goal twofold. Just so that people know, we did cut that from the budget, but the assistant superintendent brought put math back on track, understanding by design, which is, you know, it's really important to have as a district, bringing Google in to our entire district, changing the whole technology of every building, and pushing for that. I think being visible in the schools, I think was a huge, for me, I think it's huge to be visible in a school system. Being a mentor for the administrators, you know, you're definitely going to be missed in this district, and it does worry me that we don't have an assistant superintendent and somebody to push that curriculum forward. But I'm hopeful that the teachers and the staff have a good background that you've left them. So, you know, I appreciate you coming on board and pushing our district forward.
Thanks.
So thank you.
Although it is possible for me to, it's almost impossible for me to be invisible.
Yeah, but the impact will be felt for many years. But it's been a great leadership team.
Yes.
The two of you have complemented each other very well, and your strengths have played very well for this district. And I worry that the cuts that we've made will be hard to reinstate. And we have a job, Jack. We have a job ahead of us. And we have to work with our towns, and I worry that we will place a burden on our superintendent that will put such incredible pressure that I'm just not sure can be sustained. I mean, I think we have holes, and I'm not sure with this budget that we're looking at. I mean, you know, we say we need a little bit more from our towns, but we cut a tremendous amount. And that tremendous amount is going to also be felt for years. And we have got to find a way to get these things back into our budget so we continue this growth, not maintain it, but continue growing. And we have to find a way to do that. But you've been huge impact here. That impact will be felt for many years after you leave, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Anything else for the assistant superintendent?
Yes, my report again. You had me double up. At your places, you have the brand new, thoroughly revised, reconstituted English Language Learner Handbook. I'd like to thank Mrs. Tatro, Mrs. Waterman, and Mrs. Lovely for all of their work with our ELL portion of the coordinated program review. We are also getting visited next year along with special ed. But, you know, I want to give this to you now because at the next meeting, I would like the school committee to approve the handbook. But it goes through all of our processes, procedures, forms, everything that we are required to have. If you remember way, was it 4 or 5 years ago when the Department of Justice came in to look at our English language learner process here in the state of Massachusetts, that first started with changing to WITA and everybody having to go through the retail English language learner course and all that sort of thing. Well, it also resulted in a tremendous amount of new regulations around ELL and new requirements, so we desperately needed to totally revamp that. So that's what that is. The other front sell I will give you, to use my old radio term, is that also on the 22nd, right, is the next meeting, 22nd, yes. The elementary report cards will be coming to you for approval. The 2011 standards, which were fully implemented in 2013, changed ELA and math, and then we have the science standards on top of that as well. but we never changed our standards-based report card, so we reworked the standards-based report card. So you're basically going to see a grid with new standards on it. It's not all that exciting. The next pieces of that is identifying rubrics and assessments to address and measure those standards, and then to educate parents as to what those standards mean. Those are the next steps in the process, but we need to get the report cards approved because we need to get them into X2 over the summer so that we will have them for the fall. So that will be coming to you in the spring.
Is that report cards for every school?
No, that is, no, sorry, that's elementary. That's K through 5.
Yeah.
Is that going to have the new science standards on it too? Didn't mean to say.
I don't.
We just had a conversation about science.
If I could look at them right now, I could tell you that. But they did do some revision of science and social
I wasn't
studies.
sure if that was going to be like a hold off, work in progress.
No, I think that they did them as well. So it's just how they're going to limp through next year assessing them. But yeah, because right now what you have is you have things that aren't they're being crossed off, and so it's kind of a. And that's it for me.
I cut you off.
Do you need any help packing?
No.
I'm all done. Good. Okay.
I just wanted to publicly thank Dr. Thompson. Dave and I met 3 years ago, and it was amazing how we complemented each other in many, many ways. We both learned from each other. We probably had more dinners over the last 3 years than we have with our spouses. And he has been a tremendous, tremendous asset to our district and has done great work. And Norwood is very lucky. And he and I promised that we will stay in touch. So we will continue to carry on that dialogue. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
School committee forum. Georgette?
I just want to echo what Ellen Himmelberger said, and I want to thank the retirees for all their years and dedication of service to our district. That's all I have. Good luck, Dave.
Thank you.
Karen coming back, I'm not sure. What, Jack?
Again, thanks to Dr. Thompson for all his great work these past 3 years, which I know I've definitely felt while I was at the school, whether I know it or not. And we have our work cut out for us, me and Jane, in the future, and over this summer, hopefully we can get a lot of good stuff done. So that's all I've got.
Pam?
I just want to say congratulations to the seniors who graduated this past week. Jane and I and Tara had a great time at graduation, sort of watching why we do this and seeing these young people, young adults taking the next step. I'm just thinking of our 8th graders in DC and Mr. Cameron, and hoping they're having a great time and everyone is enjoying that experience. And wanted to say congratulations to those students of the middle school and high school track teams who just competed at state meets. And there were, a lot of moments. I was not there this year, but there were a lot of moments that I saw on social media of just great teamwork and friendships. And I think when I see that, I think those are the, another reason why we need to really think about this budget process and get funding so these things can continue, because I think, band and athletics just add so much to what we're doing. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to them, and thank you, Dr. Thompson.
I'm going to echo a little bit of what everybody said. Congratulations to the seniors, to the retirees. Best of luck, Dr. Thompson. And also, this is the last meeting before the kids get out of school, so I do want to wish everybody a wonderful summer. Try to get outside, exercise, relax, read, do a little math, but most importantly, just try to relax so that when you come in ready to go in September. So be safe and enjoy your summers. I'll also say
say congrats and good luck.
Thank you.
Regional agreement due to the Chapter 70 funding meeting at the BMR on the 15th at 7:30. We've moved the regional agreement committee workshop to be at 6 p.m. at the BMR Media Center Library. So we're already on site, and you can move over to the other meeting if you so choose to stay for both. But so I made that change with Bridget, so it's been posted, so that's official. I want to touch back on the MSBA grants. I know JFK is approved, and you said about 18 months, but where MES and AFM weren't approved, our next steps is what, to approach the towns and let them know go back over that list of
Yes.
the improvements that we need to do. So when will we start working on that? Do we, obviously after the budgets?
Well, the towns do have a list of
Copies,
what
right.
is needed in both of those buildings as well. We're still waiting on the visit from MSBA to the high school.
I know high school
for
is
that
still
one,
on.
and that should happen over the next several weeks.
Okay.
But the towns do have a list of the capital.
So do we need to reach out to them to start action on those, or do we kind of wait for them to?
But it's probably going to be a parallel track along with the work to get MSBA's grants lined up for the high school, and if it's approved, as well as JFK.
Right. Okay. And then I just know that last week there was some, unfortunately, mainly social media issues over Steve Tringali over at becoming the JFK principal. Just wanted to clear that everything was cleared through ethics, and that. Are you okay? If you want to speak about
on
better
that.
than me, I just wanted to make sure it's out there publicly that we did make sure that everything's on.
Dotted our I's and crossed our T's.
Right. That is it from me.
I know I already told Dave how I felt, but again, good luck to you in your future endeavors. And I don't know if you heard me, do you need help packing? Have you brought that rocking chair out yet? Or?
No, I have not brought the rocking chair out yet. I might get exhausted. I might need it one more time.
There was something I wanted to back up to. I think it was when we were talking about our committees and such. You mentioned the strategic plan, Jane, and I wanted to mention that when Jane and I met with Desi earlier in May, most of the conversation was about money, and they mentioned our strategic plan. What I would like to see is what our town is screaming for, and that instead of a strategic plan, a plan that we're working with our communities.
Yep.
I don't know if it could be called a business plan for us. We're not technically a business. We are a public school that to call us a business with revenue and such. But I think there's something in between that strategic plan and a business plan, but something to the 3 to 5 year range that we are working together with our town, to get those projections out there would be my recommendation.
And I agree, and that actually was going to be my focus, to take the strategic plan and turn it into a working plan of moving programs and curriculum and technology and everything forward. So we'll know what our goals are.
And I definitely want to echo Wendy on summer. Have fun, enjoy, be outside, and come back refreshed for September. That's when we do a lot of growing.
And I do hope our students who are in Washington, D.C. are having a wonderful educational experience and also some fun times. But I would also like to give a shout out to their parents who are sitting at home worried to death. Many of those children are traveling on their own for the first time, and I know those parents are wishing they had gone with them, and the children are saying thank you for not sending them with us. But I do hope they're having a wonderful time. Again, I want to reiterate how important, I know summer is upon us, but there will be a Millville town meeting. And I think if you're planning a vacation, hopefully you're not planning it on the day of that meeting if you live in Millville. And I have a smile on my face now, but we need folks there to support the schools, because as we saw in the current budget, as we see in the budget, you know, our costs that we have very little control over go up annually. Our revenue from the state, from the federal government goes down annually, and unfortunately the burden is on the taxpayers in the towns, and the future of our towns lies in the children that we are educating, and so we need to invest in that future. And I know that people have heard that before, and I know that our towns struggle, but we are struggling desperately, and we need to move this forward. So we need people at that meeting who are willing to stand up and speak up and have their voice heard to support this district, because we have very few other options. You know, you want to say something.
Just a couple of quick announcements. As Tara had mentioned, our thanks to Senator Ryan Fatman and Representative Kevin Kuros, because they were instrumental in organizing, having the Department of Ed come out and speak on school finance. They'll be in Uxbridge 5:30 until 7, and then they come to BMR next Thursday, the 15th at 7:30, right after the regional agreement meeting at 6. I'm excited to announce 2 new principals on the leadership team and working in the district on July 1. Stephen Tringali will be the Kennedy principal. There were concerns about the mass law governing municipal employees and the State Ethics Commission. Both Steve and I were in contact with the State Ethics Commission. We have filed the appropriate disclosure forms, and Council, MASC, and the State Ethics Commission have given their blessing. We also welcome Miss Tanya Kurt-Huard, who will be the middle school principal, and she currently is at Somerset Middle, and I know we are looking forward to welcoming her. Both of them hopefully will be here on June 22nd to meet the committee. And last, next Thursday noontime, I get to go into the State House with Dr. Kathy Boisvert, who is one of the 5 finalists, runners-up for the Teacher of the Year in Massachusetts, and they're holding a reception for the 5 as well as the finalist. So that is another terrific honor for Kat, as well as Millville Elementary and the district. She is so deserving of it, and that's all I have.
Our next meeting is Thursday, June 22nd, here, 7 o'clock. But at this point, we will roll call a motion to go into executive session for discuss Unit C and personnel issues. So if somebody would like to make that, I know it's 10 o'clock. I know, I get it. We'll be quick. We'll be quick. Somebody wants to make that motion.
So moved.
So moved. A second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Tammy and Wendy, seconded by Tara. Roll call. Tammy?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And to not return to the public meeting after to adjourn things.